Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, for another installment of the Motor Vehicle and Transportation Subcommittee. As always, I will be your chairman, Vaughn Stewart, and we have another fun group of bills today. A lot of local bills, I think a lot of relatively easy bills. I think we can move through pretty efficiently ahead of our voting session during this crazy crossover week. So let's start with House Bill 371. First of our local bills today. I'll share my screen. Here is a bill to add Maryland Route 5 in Prince George's County to the existing law, where we have selected a few specific dangerous roads to allow counties to place speed cameras on. We heard during the hearing from Delegate Long about the danger and the hazards on Maryland Route 5 and about the community's interest in bringing this bill and about having automated enforcement along this corridor. We have a letter from the Prince George's County delegation. There are no amendments. Any thoughts? All right. Is there a motion on the bill?
So moved.
Favorable.
All right. Moved and seconded. Any final thoughts on this local bill? Seeing none, all in favor of House Bill 371, raise your hand or signify by saying aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? All right. That bill will receive a favorable recommendation from the subcommittee. We'll move on to House Bill 913. This is also about speed monitoring systems, except this time it's in Baltimore City. And here you can see that what we're doing here is for the existing camera program on Interstate 83 in Baltimore City. This bill would change the number of cameras from 2 to 4. And we have heard from folks that while the camera program on 83 has been doing well, they need additional cameras. They'd like to double them simply because it's a big stretch of highway and they need more coverage to try to get people to slow down throughout the corridor rather than just in a couple of select spots. Any other thoughts on this one? Okay. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
I should note that this also gets rid of the sunset.
That's right. Sorry, I forgot that. But as you can see here, there was a sunset on these cameras on 83, and we removed the sunset in the bill as well.
And that's generally not how we do it with these. We keep the sunsets in.
Correct. So we're making an exception here for Interstate 83. Our normal practice is to put a sunset and then continue to expand these programs out if they come back and want us to extend their sunset. Here we have the bill sponsor and the city want us to remove their sunset, and we are giving them that local deference. Delegate Terrazza.
Yeah, I'm actually happy. Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry. I'm more than happy to do it. I'm just like, is there a particular reason or it's just because they've asked for it? I don't mind doing that at all. I'm not sure why we always sunset them, especially if they're asking for it, but do we need to distinguish that from other stuff we're doing or just sort of depends?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the distinction here is because this is a interstate versus a state highway. And so the idea is that we have less control over how this road operates because it's run by the federal government.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Thank you.
Like with SHA, you sunset these things because what you're hoping to do is you're hoping that you're going to collect fines, use those to change make structural improvements to the road to slow down traffic permanently and not have to rely on automated enforcement. But we have some degree to obviously change interstates, but not to the same degree that we have for state highways.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yep.
Move favorable.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor of House Bill 913, raise your hand or signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. House Bill 913 will also receive a favorable recommendation from the subcommittee. We will move on to House Bill 988, and it's going to be also in a similar vein. This is to place, for the first time, speed cameras on Maryland Route 200, which is also called the Intercounty Connector, or the ICC. I'm personally very familiar with this stretch of road, and I can personally attest at its level of danger, not because the conditions of the road are bad. It's actually one of our newest major road projects in the state. But because ridership has not yet met the long-term projections, the road is basically like a super speedway. Outside of rush hour, you can pretty much just go as fast as you want. And the ICC has become a locus of the kind of exhibition driving elements that we've heard about before, not necessarily in terms of like doing the wheelies and or doing like the donuts and stuff like that. More like just people racing. So this bill would allow would allow us to put here in Montgomery County, it would allow us to put cameras up for the first time on the ICC. Am I missing anything, Patrick?
No, that's correct.
Okay.
And
Any
by
thoughts?
the way, it's not the county, it's MDTA.
That's right. Yeah. It would allow MDTA to put the cameras up. They obviously run the toll facilities in Maryland. Delegate Jacobs. You're on mute. You're still on mute.
Sorry about that.
You're good.
Are we doing the Wyville amendment on any of these bills, especially this one where you giving them some sort of warning up front? And where's this money going on this one?
Patrick, did we do the real-time posting of speeds on this?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the Wyville amendment is the case for all of this stuff we're doing.
For the specific sites and specific highways, yes.
Right, exactly.
And where's this revenue go? I'm not looking right at my bill. I apologize.
It's they kind of rewrote the section, so it's a little tough to read through here.
You see here that we do get reports about the revenue and how the net revenue was used here. That's existing law, and we're just adding MDTA to this section here, which requires reporting to the General Assembly of where revenue is used. Let's see.
But when they pay the fines, who's getting the money? That's my question.
I believe it's the state controlled by.
Yeah, I mean, I think it flows to MDTA.
Well,
I think they first have to use it for the cost of the program, and then I think they can keep it.
All right, thank you.
Oh, hold on, Delegate Jacobs. Yeah, it does go to MDTA. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Cool. Delegate Terrazzo.
For the public purpose or just for me, because I don't remember, what's the Wyville amendment?
Oh, yeah.
It requires a real-time posting of your speed as you approach. Like when you see those signs that say
Yeah, the
your
speed boards.
is,
Yeah.
that's
Okay, so that is it, or the report afterwards is?
The Wyville amendment is the real-time posting, and that applies to all these that have specific roads attached to them. There's also a reporting requirement just generally for speed cameras.
Okay, thank you.
But that doesn't have anything to do with Delegate Wyville, as far as I can tell.
No.
Okay. I mean, I'm happy to give him credit for it though, if he wants to.
Now, the only when I refer to the Wyville amendment, I mean the real-time speed posting. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts on House Bill 988? See none. Is there a motion?
I move favorable.
Second. Okay. Yeah, I think Delegate Terrazzo seconded. It's been probably moved in second. Any final comments? See none. All in favor of House Bill 988, raise your hand or signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. That bill will also receive a favorable recommendation from the subcommittee. We will move on to a non-local bill. We'll mix it up a little bit. And this is going to be House Bill 1144. Do we have new language, Patrick, for that one?
Yes. Who's the Maddie or Darren today?
It's Darren, yeah.
Darren should have it.
Okay, let's see.
And I did not make any changes since we talked, so we can kind of do what we talked about in concept.
Okay, got it. It looks like MTA is joining now. Let's see. All right. Okay. I guess this is the correct language. Okay. So here, this is the amendment from MTA. Does this look right, Patrick? This is what you sent over?
Yes.
All right. So basically what this amendment does, folks, is it strikes the bill and it puts in this language here. And it says that on or before June of this year, MTA, in consultation with WMATA, their Joint Safety Committee, shall convene a work group to create a rider code of conduct and implement a comprehensive internal safety program to strengthen protections for administration, operators, and staff through clear safety protocols, reinforced policies, and improved risk mitigation measures. And the work group shall address consequences for violations in administration facilities that may include a ridership ban, legal action, and appeals process. And they're going to report their findings. Okay. So here's the status of this bill, from what I can tell, and we can get our friends from SMART or ATU or MTA to weigh in. This bill came in with a relatively prescriptive account of what needed to happen when someone assaults an operator of public transit system. And it mentioned here, you can see in the crossed out text here, it mentions specific amount of days that basically people would be banned for assaults. And this was meant to put MTA's policy in line with how many public transit systems across the country address assaults on transit operators. WMATA already has a proposal. MTA has now promised us that they want to also create some kind of ban structure. But the reason they've given this amendment here is because they don't want prescriptive requirements. They want to maintain flexibility to do what essentially create a system from scratch. And they want to have the autonomy to do that. And they don't want the legislature to be dictating to them exactly how the ban policy should work. Okay, that's why we have the amendment. Our folks from the unions who represent transit operators do not love this set of amendments because they feel especially strongly about one aspect. I mean, they feel strongly about the whole original bill, but they feel especially strongly about one aspect of what a ban policy looks like. And that's that people who assault transit operators should be banned. If a ban is appropriate, the ban should go into place immediately, such that they can't go back home on the same route and then assault an operator in the morning, be cited for it, whatever, and then go back home and assault the transit operator on the way home as well. And they don't want, like you see in some jurisdictions, a ban to be subject to or be dependent on a criminal conviction, because that obviously takes years, and the person is going to be continuing to assault, possibly continuing to assault people. But also, if you require a criminal conviction, you're pushing people into the justice system who otherwise wouldn't necessarily have been prosecuted, because now in order to ban them from the system, you have to prosecute them. So that's not so I think that SMART and ATU are a little bit worried that if MTA has full discretion to do this, then they're going to create a ban policy that requires a conviction, or the ban doesn't go into effect for a really long time. And obviously there should be an appeals process, and it should be fair, and people shouldn't be persecuted by the transit system. So you need a fair appeals process, but I also get the point that an immediate ban is pro-safety. So what I would like to suggest we do, but certainly open to having a full discussion on this, we still got 30 minutes, is I think we should take this MTA amendment, but we should specify a couple of things that the ban policy must include. And I think if we did that, I think the folks from the transit worker unions and hopefully MTA would be cool with that compromise. And then we can all, sing Kumbaya and march arm in arm to the State House. So what I think we should add to this is basically, and Patrick and I have kind of discussed some rough language that he hasn't drafted yet, but we could probably pass it in concept. I think that we should specify that, this work group that MTA is going to set up shall create a ban policy. period. Number two, that ban policy should not make bans subject to criminal convictions. That's number two. And number three, I think we should have some sort of language that the ban policy that MTA's work group ultimately creates should have bans go into effect as soon as practicable after the assault incident. And I feel like that's not very prescriptive. That gives them some flexibility, but it signals to them what we want here, which I think what we want, which is that if someone is a threat to the safety of transit operators, we need to get them off the system as soon as we can. And we shouldn't be, waiting around for 30 days or whatever to allow them to continue to do this to people. So I think that's where we're at. I'm going to go to questions. We'll probably also on this one ask some of our friends from these groups to weigh in. But what I'd like to do is, if you guys like those ideas, we think we can move them conceptually, and then we'll probably not vote on them today in the voting session, because we're not going to have enough time, obviously, before today's voting session. So we'll have 24 hours at least or so to continue hearing from people and continue to tweak language in a full committee amendment if we need to do that. Okay, with that all said, Delegate Davis.
Thank you, Vaughn, for working this. I think you've got some good additions to this to make it better. My only concern is that the time from when this law passes to when they finish the work group to when they execute the work group, there is no repercussion for people, and that bothers me. So I'm going to suggest, can we pass something similar to the original bill that gives them a right to ban people and let it sunset after they make some new rules? I mean, that would be my suggestion. The idea that they came in with a really reasonable bill, maybe not as legal as it could be, but a really reasonable bill, and that they're not going to get any help for maybe 2 years, that gives me some yeah. Thank you.
Really well said. I cannot disagree with anything you said. And maybe what we could do is, we talk to MTA, maybe we could speed up this timeline a little bit. You're right. I also don't hate the idea of basically giving them the authority to do a ban, at least for egregious assaults or whatever, immediately, and have that go into effect upon the effective date. We could also just think about moving up these timelines a little bit. I mean, obviously, I'm sure MTA is going to push back just from a resource standpoint, but it is a slow timeline here. I mean, by October 1, they're just going to report their findings to MTA, and we have no idea when actually the policy would go into effect. I mean, we could easily be back here next session with no policy in effect. So I do think that that's a legitimate concern that we should think about. Delegate Ziegler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So yeah, I definitely agree with Delegate Davis. This language here is way too weak as far as I'm concerned. And I think if this was a transit system that the entire general population rode every day, like the New York City subway, you would have security guards. I mean, this is a really crazy situation and a serious public safety problem. So I think we need something that can start immediately. And I do like your ideas for strengthening it, Delegate Stewart, and would be happy to move that just to get it going, because I think the situation's outrageous.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate that. Delegate Addison, our bill sponsor.
Just wanted to say thank you to Vaughn. Thank you, Chair. But I wanted to say thank you to Vaughn. Thank you to Deborah. Thank you to Natalie, because those were my thoughts. But we do need to do something immediately and not wait. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay. Great. Appreciate that too. And thank you for putting in the bill, Delegate Addison. Delegate Terrazzo.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with what everyone's saying. I'm concerned about immediately, but my question, I have 2 other questions. One is that you spoke of a work group, but does work group include either drivers or the unions or somebody?
Yeah, it does here. I'll show you on my.
Okay, I just didn't see that. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it would include them.
And then I think you already said you're going to do this, but I would like to hear from, I think Brian Wyville is here. I don't think.
Yeah, I'll ask. Yeah, I'm going to give.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
I'm going to give both sides sort of a chance to chat here briefly to us. Delegate Guyton.
She's on mute.
Yeah, I know. I think she's trying to fix it. All right, we'll let Delegate Healy go while Delegate Guyton figures out her phone.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. I 100% agree with what Delegate Davis and everyone has said. I think that I really think that the way that she proposed to do it, to have something go into effect immediately, with a sunset after they come back with an alternative, so that people can be safe. I mean, there's no reason why the stories that we heard, the driver who, somebody went down the road and got on the same bus like a couple miles down the road again, and intimidating the same driver he had already assaulted. That's not right to even be allowed to do that. So yes, I think they should be able to ban them immediately and hold them accountable. And yeah, if they come up with a better plan, great. But in the meantime, we need to make sure everybody's safe.
Okay. All right, appreciate that. Delegate Guyton, did you have any luck? He's bringing in reinforcements. Is that Jason Weintraub?
Thank you so much for unmuting me, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry, I'm out in the hallway right now waiting for an HCO hearing.
Okay.
I agree with my colleagues. I think we should do something on this if we're able to, rather than push the timeline so far out. But I also wanted to put in my suggestion, and there's already an amendment sort of on the table that the transportation workers have agreed to, that also ask them to look at folks who may have some sort of assault as a manifestation of their disability, and that they, instead of being banned for life or for a period of time, would just be required to have a caregiver with them or a support professional with them. So I would, if we decide to move forward, or even if we just do the work group, I would love to see that also encompassed in the task of this group and the work that they do moving forward. So sorry, I'm
Okay,
can't work
great.
from home.
No, we appreciate that. Thank you for playing double duty. It's a crazy day and a crazy week. Okay, at this point, I appreciate the sentiments from everyone. I'm going to kick it over to Joseph Swit from MTA, or anyone else from MTA who would like to share their perspective here. It sounds like there's sort of an overwhelming preference by subcommittee members that they prefer the text of the original bill. It also sounds like maybe there's some interest in providing some sort of short-term ban policy so we can get bad actors off of these transit systems immediately and not wait months and months for MTA to come up with something. So Joseph, yeah, you wanna take it away and give us your thoughts?
Yes, thank you, Subcommittee Chair, Subcommittee Chair Stewart, and the rest of the subcommittee. Joseph Swit here on behalf of MTA. Just wanted to reiterate that I think the chair summed up the intent behind MTA's amendment well at the beginning, that it's our intent, as we stated in the letter to the committee and the bill sponsor, that's MTA's intent to create a rider code of conduct that would allow the ability to ban riders who assault operators, but that we didn't want it to be prescriptive, so that we had the flexibility to make sure that we could make it work legally and operationally. And so that was the intent behind the amendments that we submitted. I would say, to the point about the effective dates, in our letter, we had stated that it was our intent to have this system in place by October 1st. So that would be in line with what the original effective date was with the bill. So I just wanted to clarify that point, that it was MTA's intent to start the internal process with stakeholders to devise the system immediately, and that by October 1st, we would have the system in place to better protect operators and ban those who to assault operators. And I want to leave it open to, if I may, Mr. Chair, to our Director of Government Affairs, Jalen Sanders, if he has anything to add to that.
Sure, of course. Mr. Sanders.
Good afternoon, Subcommittee. Thank you again for allowing us the opportunity to participate today. Just to echo Joseph's sentiments, we really truly are invested in the intent behind this bill, because we believe that operator safety is of the utmost importance. It was just the ability to, one, come up with a program that we are already in the works on building to just ensure that we're protecting our operators and we're banning individuals who are committing these assaults. So, I mean, Joseph summed it up nicely, but we just wanted to say we truly do understand the intent. It was just the flexibility with the operational date of the bill and the amendment that we wrote.
Yeah. Appreciate that. Delegate Davis?
I have a question for Joseph. You think you can have this thing done and operational by October 1st. So my question is, why haven't you done it before now?
So yeah, so we it's been discussed in the past about creating a rider code of conduct to be, frank, we've looked into ways to do this, and we've had, tried to make sure with our legal team and operationally that we sort of had our bases covered, that we could make sure that we could come up with a system that, whether it could be an appeals process and due process for everyone, that so that we could come up with a system that could both protect the operators, but also maintain due process for the riders. That was the original point of discussion between the union representatives and MTA, and then it sort of evolved into more of a prescriptive bill. So the intent of the amendment was to sort of take it back to what our original intent was, which was to do this via MTA's internal process of updating our rider code of conduct. So
Okay.
that's
Got it.
that's why we're here right now.
Okay, I appreciate that. So here's what I'm going to do just to try to move this along a little bit. So I'm going to propose just an amendment in concept that I think, as long as you guys are comfortable with, I'm going to float this. We'll get thoughts from Brian Weibel from the ATU about what I'm floating, and then we'll see what the subcommittee thinks too. I think we take this language here, this non-prescriptive language that MTA wants us to do, and we make a few changes. First, we say that they shall create a band program.
All right, man, I haven't had one of those yet.
Delegate, you got to mute yourself. Number two, we're going to
You got more questions there,
number one, they have to create a band program through this language and through the internal process at MTA. Two, the band program has to be in effect by October 1. That's consistent with the effective date of the original bill. Three, it can't condition bans on criminal convictions. 4, it has to provide for the ban to go into effect as soon as practicable after the assault. And I think that conveys our intent to MTA that we don't want there to be a delay. And I know that's a huge priority for ATU. Maybe I'm missing some other angle that would be not something that I don't think is super, super prescriptive that I think is important to people to include. That's what I'm thinking right now. Maybe I'm going too far or not far enough. But Brian, will you weigh in about what I'm thinking and what y'all are thinking?
First off, I wanted to thank
Mr. Pendleton also has his hand up, but yeah, go ahead.
Perfect. I'll let David speak to the specifics, but I want to thank everyone for their concern about the effective date of the implementation of the ridership ban. So long as at the end of this process, we end up with an actual ban on people that attack and assault our members, and that ban goes into effect so that the person's not back on the bus in the short term, we're going to be happy with proposals that do that. We do have concerns that absent the proposals that Delegate Stewart just mentioned, that would guarantee that there is some type of ridership ban that goes into place, then we would have concerns. And I'll let David speak to some of the other parts of that. But I agree with the amendments in concept.
Okay, got it. That's really helpful. Yeah, Mr. Pendleton?
Yes, sir. First off, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, thank you for having us here. I want to thank you for your leadership on this, sir. The only concerns that SMART has is being that we're now adding additional players, namely WMATA, and all that goes into that. I do have a little concern about the ban being put in place by October 1st. And so kind of in line with Delegate Davis's suggestion is, would the committee and yourself be open to our ban going in place if the MTA's ban is not fully operational by October 1st, and then that it was sunset once their policy is in place in collaboration with labor and WMATA and all the other stakeholders.
Okay, so you're basically saying the original bill's sort of requirements would be a backstop, and it would essentially it would probably push MTA to trying to get this done expeditiously by the date, because otherwise they're gonna get basically the default rule that we wrote for them.
Yes, sir. That would kind of be the logic behind it, and also I wanted to speak on Delegate Guyton's amendment that we did suggest that language that would come strictly out of the PTSA rider guide, where we would allow for a person who does have certain disabilities and that a personal care attendant, as long as they have a personal care attendant with them or an escort with them,
Right.
that they would be able to ride, because we certainly don't want to penalize people for things that's beyond their control.
Right.
But I think it would be quite reasonable to have this as a backstop, because as Delegate Davis said, I think this was a pretty reasonable bill.
Okay, got it. That's helpful. Joseph, what, if anything, gives you consternation about what we're talking about right now?
Well, I mean, I think that we would have, I'll check with our team and get back to you about sort of have this notion of having the original bill as a backstop. We'll reaffirm whether we can get this up by October 1, but that was our intent in the letter that we stated, that it would be a challenge, but we're committed to making sure that we have this up and running by October 1st. So I'll kick it over to Jalen if he has anything that he wanted to add, but I don't necessarily see the need to have the original bill as the backstop if the committee goes forward with the amendments that you're proposing, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Understood.
Yes, and I echo those same sentiments. We just want to make sure that we properly roll this program out, and we do understand the timiness of the need. However, we just want to make sure we do things properly, and that every angle is approached, from like operational to legal. We want to make sure we have something firm that's put in place, so we don't have to come back later on to kind of clean up any potential issues that may foresee in the future.
Okay, Mr. Pendleton.
Yes, sir. I certainly can understand the sentiments. However, we have been discussing this going on years now. I certainly don't see why an additional 6 months we can't come up with a solution. And if for some reason we can, I don't think it should be a real issue to say, hey, this is the language, providing that it will have a sunset on it once the MTA does produce their comprehensive policy.
Right. Okay. I get it. Okay. So guys, this is what we're going to do. We only have, appreciate you. We only have 11 minutes left. So I'm going to take it like an informal poll here. Okay. I want you to raise your hand. I think everyone basically agrees with the amendments that I just laid out. It sounds like, the 4 things I said we're all good for. The thing that it sounds like MTA and the union are probably going to disagree about is whether we should have the provisions of the bill be this backstop if some sort of, policy is not created by the work group by October 1. So that's what I'd like to poll the subcommittee members for. And if you're undecided, you don't have to vote. It's just an informal poll. If you like Mr. Pendleton's backstop proposal, please raise your hand.
Oh, yes, I want the backstop.
Okay. If you're concerned about the backstop proposal, raise your hand. Okay. All right. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a motion that we do a big amendment that basically, and I'll read it to you guys at the next voting session, not today, but next voting session, to make sure that, it's consistent with what we said, but I'm sure Patrick will do a great job. The amendment's going to say that they have to create a ban proposal by October 1. The ban proposal has to provide for banning people as soon as practicable after an assault. The ban proposal the ban itself cannot be dependent on a criminal conviction. And if by October 1, MTA has not come up with their own proposal going through their work group, then the original provisions of the bill become effective. But if they do, then their policy holds. So that's my amendment. I'm also going to add the Guyton amendment that if someone that basically directing MTA to create as part of their policy to ensure that a rider with disabilities can avoid a ban if they have their trained professional support professional with them. I'm going to add that to my amendment too. Sounds like everyone likes that. All right. I'm getting nodding heads. Patrick, if I know this is a little unorthodox, but does this sound okay to you?
Oh, that's fine.
Okay. All right.
My only question
Yeah.
to you is you're saying this for another subcommittee meeting tomorrow or for full committee voting tomorrow?
Full committee voting tomorrow. I'm going to try to vote this out right now.
Okay.
All right. I just moved it. Is there a second
Second.
on my amendment? Okay. Any final discussion? Okay. All in favor of the amendment I just described conceptually, raise your hand or signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Okay. On the bill as amended. Delegate Addison, were you just raising your hand to vote for the amendments, or do you have something to say?
Needed to ask a question. So
Okay.
will we be doing this like immediately, or do we have to wait for MTA?
Well, the original bill's effective date was October 1. So this would basically say, just like the original bill says, there's going to be a policy in place October 1, one way or another. If they do their work expeditiously, the policy that will be in place is the one they come up with some strictures that we're creating. If they fail to come up with something by October 1, the original bill effective date, your proposal will go into effect.
Okay, so we'll be doing.
So this is on the exact same timeline as the original bill.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any final questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the bill as amended, HB 1144, raise your hand or signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right. Good work, guys. We got through that. And MTA, obviously, I know that you guys aren't going to be thrilled by that result. Come talk to me ahead of the full committee voting session, and we can obviously throw on some more amendments or whatever if we need to. Let's try to burn through a couple more of these bills as fast as we can. First, we've got another local bill, HB 1173. This would allow Montgomery County to place speed monitoring system on high-risk highways. This is kind of similar to my statewide bill, where we're basically just want to put the county wants to be able to put cameras in the places where the crashes are happening and where it's the most unsafe. There are no amendments. I'm going to move it. Is there a second?
Second.
Any opposed to this local bill for Montgomery County? I mean, sorry, any comments on this local bill for Montgomery County? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of House Bill 1173, raise your hand or signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that bill will receive a favorable recommendation from the subcommittee as well. Move on to House Bill 1227. This is a school bus stop, Montgomery County local bill.
Mr. Chair, did you just see the email? We got another 15 minutes.
What's up?
We get another 15 minutes.
Oh, we get another 15 minutes. Oh, wow. We're really cooking with gas now. Okay. So I'm going to pull up HB 1227. So this bill is another Montgomery County local bill. And it alters the application and implementation date for a program involving school bus stops on highways. This basically is a continuation of Delegate Moon's efforts in an attempt to basically make sure that we have a rational regime around school bus cameras to make sure that people are not being punished unduly. And what he's doing here basically is pushing the date back. And he's also making this like a little bit easier for the county to comply with relocation of bus stops. Is that right, Patrick?
Yes.
Okay. Delegate Morgan.
Thank you. It's nice to join the committee again.
Absolutely. It's great to see you. I'm sorry that you keep getting the short end of the stick on this.
Hey, I'm sick on bottles and cans right now. Okay, so what the heck? Hope you're happy, Jennifer Rosa.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
The question, my question just becomes, because I was reading the amendment, 400 citations at one stop. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, so basically he's reducing the number of bus stops that the bill applies to only ones where there have been 400 or more citations in the preceding fiscal year. Essentially, the county said, we're cool to relocate bus stops to make kids safer, but it's going to be really, really burdensome for us to do it in every different school or all these different school bus stops. And so can you give us a little help and only tell us to do it where the problem is the worst? And so Delegate Moon, I think, basically looked at all the citations, got all the data, and he tried to pick basically a number that would mean that the most egregious of these are the ones that the school system has to do, so they'll actually do it.
I guess my question rhetorically is 400. If you go to school 180 days a year, that's the magical number in Maryland. And you're doing 400, that means you have to get at least 2 citations plus per day in order for it to apply. So I'm just saying, is 400 too big a number if we want to
Yeah.
make this more meaningful?
Well, I'm with you. I'm with you, Delegate Morgan. I would, love to just not pass the bill because we want kids to be safe. And 400 seems like a real high number to me too. But this has been heavily negotiated. We have a letter from the delegation. At this point, if we don't pass it, we got to go back to the delegation. We got to go back to the county. This is the number that the sponsor came up with in talks with all these groups. So I think we got to just stick with it at this point, or
So make it just local legislation.
Yeah, exactly. But you're welcome to vote no. I wouldn't be mad. Okay, any other thoughts on this? All right, I'm going to move favorable. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any final discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of House Bill 1227, raise your hand or signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that bill will receive a favorable recommendation from the subcommittee with honorable dissent from Delegate Morgan. Okay, we're going to move on to House Bill 1236. This is a local bill from Queen Anne's County. They are requesting something that Montgomery County has also requested, which is that they want to be able to reduce the speed on, they want to be able to reduce speeds without a traffic and engineering study to not less than 15 miles per hour. And we heard this bill recently, a few days ago. We heard about, this is a small town in Queen Anne's that wants to do this. They don't have a ton of resources. I think this is a government efficiency bill. I think requiring engineering and traffic studies when everyone knows that a road is unsafe is silly and it's waste. So that's that. Any thoughts on this one for our folks in Queen Anne's? Okay, I'm going to move favorable. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any final thoughts on 1236? Seeing none, all in favor of House Bill 1236, raise your hand or signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, great. That one will receive a favorable recommendation from the subcommittee as well. We're going to move on to House Bill 1283. This is about Charles County, and it's about recreational vehicles. And it basically would allow Charles County to regulate the operation of off-highway recreational vehicles. You see that Charles County could also require them to be registered. It could impose age restriction, and it could authorize the impoundment of off-highway recreation vehicles. We heard from Delegate Davis that this was a significant problem that they were having in Charles County, and they want this authority to be able to find a solution to the problem. Any thoughts? Delegate Jacobs.
Yes, thank you. Patrick, is this similar to the legislation we passed in Western Maryland, like probably 10 years ago?
No, this is a bit of a different thing. That was more to do with authorizations, and this is to do with enforcement.
Well, okay. Thank you.
But it is the kind of thing that we've given counties just, generally the ability to regulate. And of course, last year we gave the counties the ability to regulate golf carts and to allow golf carts. And now we're letting Charles County regulate the operation of these vehicles.
Does it have any amendments?
No amendments.
Move the bill.
All right, is there a second? All right, great. Been properly moved and seconded. Any final thoughts on House Bill 1283? Seeing none, all in favor of House Bill 1283, raise your hand or signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That bill will also receive a favorable recommendation from the subcommittee. We are moving on now to House Bill 1427. This is a bill from Delegate Miller about the existing Maryland Zero Emission Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Council. And here you can see that she wants to add the Secretary of the State Police, and she also wants to add an additional charge or 2 additional charges to the council. One is to study and make recommendation of design elements at EV stations, EV charging stations, and also make recommendations for approving the reliability of charging stations. This is obviously something that we've heard a lot about. Are there any amendments proposed to this, Patrick?
You know what? No, not this
Okay.
one. No.
So it does 3 things. It adds the state police because, again, the state police is qualified to weigh in on safety. It makes them report, this is an existing council, makes them report about ideas and for design elements on, and of course, you know, some of this stuff is obviously outside the jurisdiction of, like, for example, Tesla. You know, they're not necessarily going to do lighting. That would be the municipality's job. But still, I don't think it would hurt for the council to make recommendations about this kind of stuff to make sure people feel safe when they're charging their vehicle at night, as we heard from Delegate Miller. And then third, there's a reliability part, which we know is a huge issue because as many as like a third or more of EV charging stations are down at any given time. Yeah. Okay. Any thoughts on this one?
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
May I just say that this does have a $75,000 fiscal note.
Okay. Got it.
So we'll have to send it.
That was my,
Yeah.
that was my, question, comment, whatever. Do you think at this late hour that's going to be an issue or not?
I don't think it'll be an issue, but certainly we won't take it to full committee if we can't get appropriate approval in the next 24 hours.
Well, I'll move the bill based on that contingency.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Sounds great. I'll second. Okay, great. Any thoughts on tweaking the count? I'm also a little skeptical that this would cost $75,000 to add these things, but you know, we'll see. We'll see what a prep says. So, okay, great. Any final thoughts on House Bill 1427? Seeing none. All in favor of House Bill 1427, raise your hand or signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right. That bill will also receive a favorable recommendation from the subcommittee. We will conclude the meeting with House Bill 1465. This is a bill with sponsor problem about payment plans for toll facilities. So as this bill came in, it would have directed both MDOT and MDTA to establish a payment plan system for people, either for automated enforcement violations or for toll fines. However, in discussing this with MDOT and hearing from the judiciary and hearing from MDTA, we have come to the conclusion that it's going to be a little tricky for MDOT to be able to do this on the timeline that we wanted to. So we're going to continue communication with MDOT about payment plans for speed camera fines. And we are instead going to have an amendment here to make this just about toll fines. We're also going to take out the income-based part of this because no other program, either the one that MDTA is thinking about creating or the judiciary, actually makes anything contingent on income. If you ask for a payment plan, you just get it. And the reason for that is because they don't want to have to spend a bunch of administrative time having to evaluate people's income to make sure they're eligible. And then we're also going to change the amount of debt that you need to have to be eligible for the income plan. And we're going to change this, instead of 250, it's going to say 300. So again, the amendments, I don't think we have a reprint, but the amendments that we got from the department are straightforward. They basically just nix MDOT, nix speed cameras, make this just about tolls and MDTA, bring up the number from 250 to 300, and take out the income part. So as amended, what the bill would do is allow people with toll violations to ask MDTA to enter into a payment plan. The reason that we want to do this is not only is it just fairer to people with lots of tolls, but also payment plans work. They actually make people pay. This is why a lot of different entities across both public and private sector offer payment plans, is because your recoverability rate goes up. So, any thoughts? Delegate Jacobs.
How is the payment plan going to work? I mean, I like the concept, don't get me wrong.
We're
But
going
I
to
mean,
give them the
like,
flexibility to create it. We're not being very prescriptive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're basically saying they need to come up with a payment plan, but MDTA is already thinking about doing this. So this is a little bit like a HB 1144 with MTA, except this is really not prescriptive.
Okay.
They say that they're going to create a plan. We're telling them they need to. Delegate Davis.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Yes. What was the reason why you couldn't make this apply to speed cameras?
MDOT is saying that it's tricky the way this interacts with the judiciary, because if you contest a speed camera violation and you go to district court, then they already have existing payment plans. And the interaction between MDOT, offering a payment plan, and then people in district court already having a judiciary payment plan is really clunky. And maybe we could figure that out eventually, but we just don't have enough time this session to be able to make that happen. But there is an existing payment plan for speed camera violations. You just have to contest the citation and go to court, and then you access it. Okay. All right. I'm going to move my amendment as described. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion on my amendment, which again aligns this with basically what MDTA was already
Is
going
this
to do?
amendment being drafted?
Yeah, they sent it to me. I'll send it to you, Patrick.
Look, send it to the amendment office.
Okay, we'll do. We'll send it to you. Yeah, we got an amendment from MDOT. Okay, great. Any final thoughts on the amendment? See none. All in favor of the amendment, raise your hand or signify by saying aye. All right, amendment passes. Any motion on the bill is amended?
So
I'll
moved.
move. Okay, I'll second it. Any final thoughts on 1465 with the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor of payment plans for tolls, HB 65, raise your hand, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, that bill will also receive a favorable recommendation from the subcommittee. We did it, folks. Woohoo. We might meet one more time, tomorrow or whatever. Obviously, keep out, I'll text you, I'll email you, I'll let you know if we do. We may have some late stragglers to do, but we have pretty much for the most part cleared our deck. You all did an amazing job. Patrick, round of applause to Patrick, who has been working far more than overtime. And we've got 8 minutes to get you to the voting session. So thanks, everyone. See you soon.